What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. Summer is fast approaching and surely you have some beautiful vacation travels lined up. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I got myself in a sticky situation. I need to get my ass in shape so I can look and feel at the best I can possibly be while enjoying my time off. If that is you, then do not worry, because this video is going to be right for you. I'm going to be telling you exactly what you need to be doing to get your ass in shape, to look and feel at your absolute best. Today we're gonna have to start this video off with the subject of nutrition, because obviously nutrition plays a massive role when it comes to losing body fat. And the first thing we're gonna have to do is we have to get rid of all temptations. Now ideally you would want to take on more of a long-term sustainable approach, but since you only have, and since we only have 3 to 12 weeks left until the next summer vacation is lined up, we are really gonna have to step it up a notch. So we need to get rid of all the temptations, open up the shelves, open up the cupboards, and if someone would look into my kitchen, then you will see that it's basically the most boring kitchen ever, to the extent that it's actually pretty pathetic, to be honest, because I know myself. When it's late at night, I'm gonna start to get peckish, and maybe I can resist it for 1, 2, maybe 3 nights, but eventually it's all going to be gone. The fridge, the most boring fridge ever. There's just some chicken, some rice. I actually put the entire stove in there because I'm lazy, so it makes it more convenient for me when I meal prep in advance, a whole bunch of rice. Then there's some protein yogurt. This helps me to prevent getting the sweet cravings in at night. Diet Coke without caffeine, really miss this. They don't have this stuff in Thailand, so I didn't drink it over there because it ruins sleep quality. And some eggs, and that's about it. Then we have some frozen vegetables in there. Granola. Nothing, plain boxes. Boring. Nothing here. Get rid of all the temptations. If you live with someone else, maybe with your partner or with friends or family, tell them to hide all the snacks away from you, because otherwise you're going to eventually get tempted to be snacking away and easily add another 400, 500, 600 calories to your daily total on multiple occasions, and that's just really going to ruin your progress and your motivation. And actually, if you're living with your partner, then you should both be in this together, and you should be the strong couple that everyone looks up to, and make sure that both of you pushes each other to be the strongest version of yourself. The next thing you're going to do is go yourself to the grocery store / supermarket and do your food shopping. You can do it once a week or twice a week. You just need to put some time aside on a consistent basis every week to get it done. The worst thing is running out of food, that you don't have access to the good stuff, and then you starve, and that will lead to making poor decisions. Eating out, ordering out, and then not having a single clue of how many calories you have consumed. If you're a bit stripped for money, go to the cheaper stores like Aldi or Lidl and do your groceries once or twice per week for the entire week as well over there. That's what I used to do in my teens or early 20s, sometimes going more frequently because I wanted fresh vegetables. However, now I just buy most of my vegetables frozen. Little did I know at the time that it's actually the most fresh because it's being frozen straight away, compared to it traveling all the way to the supermarket, becoming less fresh in the process. And a nice additional benefit is that the frozen vegetables are most of the time going to be chopped up, and that saves you time of cleaning, time of cutting and preparing your food. You just throw the entire bag in there and you're good to go. That was at a time where everything was prepped and tracked by myself, and my physique was looking on point. Now, if you are the type of person who does not like to go to the grocery store, then that should not be a problem anymore in this modern day and age, because in most of the Western countries, you can do your grocery shopping online and have it delivered to your doorstep. The idea is that you want to make it as easy and as convenient as possible. Simply going to the store physically yourself and buying everything for a whole week in advance putting aside some devour time for you to prep those meals already makes it a lot more convenient and easy. But you can really take it one level further by ordering your food to your doorstep from the supermarkets. Now, if you're a bit extra strapped on time and have some more money to spend, usually those two do go hand in hand, then you could opt to go for healthy takeout options or meal prep delivery services. However, be a bit careful with this, because more often than not, those meal prep delivery services don't really have tasty foods. And eventually you start to get like this bit of a negative outlook on dieting and cutting and diet phases, when it doesn't have to be like that. If you don't have that strong willpower, then eventually you could end up eating stuff that you shouldn't be eating and get more calories in that you should be getting in, simply because you decide to eat other things because you're not looking forward to eat the stuff that you should be eating. Take those that deliver food that you actually really enjoy to eat. Now, there could potentially develop a second problem. The further you get into the cut, the leaner you start to get, the higher your appetite is going to become. And at some point, maybe the size of those meals doesn't really satisfy you anymore. Just prep some additional vegetables and fruits on the side that you would glue together in that meal, so it does kind of get the amount of volume that you need. The leaner you get, the higher your appetite is going to be, and the higher your kind of satiety index in a meal is gonna have to be. You are going to feel hungry at times. It's just part of the game. You are in a calorie deficit, which basically means essentially that your body is getting less energy in that it needs to function. But whenever you do eat a meal, make sure that you do feel satiated and full, but observe objectively. Basically eat the least amount of food that you need in order to feel happy and to feel good. And a lot of times people just emotionally eat more than they need to. So observe objectively, did I get enough food in? Okay, if not, find ways to basically make your meals bigger, which basically means adding more fruits or vegetables to the meal that you were eating beforehand, just to make it bigger for the same amount of calories. Dieting is not about eating less, it's about eating at least the same amount or more, sufficiently enough to feel full while sticking to your caloric requirements to reach your goal. If you do decide to go for the option of taking food out, just be aware that if you do not have a lot of experience tracking food in the past, that you might occasionally and very frequently be off with the amount of calories that you're allowed to eat, because you simply, because of the lack of experience tracking, you don't really have the skill set yet to kind of eyeball guess the amounts to make sure that you're hitting the right calories and proteins, etc. What you are going to do next is you're going to set up your daily calorie target. And this is just going to be a starting point, and you can be a lot more meticulous about these. If I had a lot more information other than simply your body weight, you can get your starting point to a much more specific, more accurate degree. But this would be a simple way that's not too complicated to get you going. And if you really don't have a single clue of how many calories you've been consuming, then this is the right way to go at it. So if you're like 110 kg, then 2,700 calories would be a good starting point. If you're 60 kg, it's going to be 2,200. Now keep in mind that these recommendations are based on someone who's walking at least 5,000 steps per day and hitting the gym about 4 times per week. If it's going to be on the lower side, then you would easily get to see that this 60 kg is going to already end up at 2,000 calories or even lower. And ideally you do not want to get below 2,000 calories so quickly already. That's more something for getting deeper into the cut. Stick to these daily targets, see how it goes, and make adjustments along the way. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set up your protein intake, and that's gonna be 1.8 grams protein per kg of body weight. So if you want to measure in pounds, this amount times 2.2. Now, one of the things you might ask me, isn't it supposed to be 2 grams per kg body weight or 2.2? Because that's a common thing you see people recommend in the fitness industry. However, there's a lot of scientific evidence suggesting that there's literally no benefit than going above 1.8 grams. If 50% of your total daily protein intake comes from animal protein sources. If you're a vegetarian, then you want to increase this to 2 grams. If you're a vegan, then you want to increase it to 2.2 grams. It's almost equally as important as the caloric intake. Next up, we have fats and carbs, and these can basically vary. These are not as important, but I would recommend not to go below 1 gram of fat per kg body weight, because fat is anabolic. Basically what fats do, they regulate all the functions of the body. So they make sure that all your organs work well and that your brain works well, basically everything, and that includes as well the functions of your hormone levels. And the higher your testosterone is going to be, the more muscle protein synthesis you'll have, aka the more muscle mass you'll be able to keep and put on as well whilst you're cutting. So preferably don't drop below 1 gram. That's kind of the optimal range. But as you're getting deeper into the cut, sometimes you would see that people would have to drop a little bit, but never go below the 50 grams. Fourth, we have split your meals into 3 or 4 meals. I wouldn't eat 2 simply because it's going to be very hard to get that 1.8 grams per kg body weight in 2 meals. You would very quickly have to eat like 60 to 70 grams of protein per meal. And in addition, it's very important to kind of get that new hit of protein in quite quickly over and over again, which is why the optimal range for protein intake or meal frequency is between 3 to 5 meals per day. And I would stick to 4 in the beginning. 3 is also fine, but sometimes a bit on the low end. I would kind of save that up until later into the cut. 4 is kind of a good mix in between those two. 5 is kind of a bit too many, and it starts to get a bit in the way of your day. It feels like you constantly have to eat and plan around to get that 5 meals in per day. It just becomes too much of a thing to focus on, and it reduces your productivity in other tasks and priorities. So 4 is a good way to go. You have a frequent hit of protein. If you notice that you're not filled up enough in each meal, then drop it to 3. So again, once you're getting lean, start to focus more on walking, because it doesn't require a lot of energy and it doesn't intervene with your recovery capacity from your gym sessions. It's very low intensity and it's a very good way to burn some extra calories. And all the time when I'm getting kind of to the lower end of my body fat ranges, I would always prioritize getting 10,000 steps in each day, because otherwise I would have to drop below 2,000 calories. I do not like to do that, and once again I do not recommend anyone doing it either. So instead of dropping down your calories even further, just increase the step count so you increase your energy expenditure instead of reducing the intake. But it can be a bit of a pain in the ass, because eventually once you get lower and lower in body fat percentage, you're just gonna have less motivation, less energy to do it. But at some point, for me, it was just something I just had to get done. Here comes the first additional bonus tip, and that is to consume caffeine. What caffeine does, it reduces your appetite, which can be very beneficial if you're otherwise getting hungry and maybe saving up some calories for a later stage in the day. And in addition, supply that with a higher amount of water intake, because essentially your stomach is kind of like a balloon and it just wants to be full. But in the Western world, we are just so used to consuming macronutrients, which are the calories, protein, fats, and carbs. And whenever we feel like eating something, but we don't necessarily have to, we just have to fill out that balloon. Another tip I could give you, to drink more carbonated drinks, because the carbonated part of it also makes you feel more full. So more caffeine, more carbonated drinks, and more liquid water intake. There's another benefit to drinking caffeine, is that once you get more further into the cut, you don't really notice it, but you start to talk a bit more monotone and a bit more slow, because your body is in such a energy saving mode. It just does not want to change over time, that you just start to burn less NEAT activity, when otherwise maybe you were this more like ADHD kind of active person, super high energy, and the energy is just gone. You don't notice it, but it does happen over time. And the caffeine literally increases your heart rate, can help to just get the calorie expenditure up and reduce the intake, reduce the amount of hunger that you might potentially feel. However, just be careful that if you drink too much of it, it's going to reduce your sleep quality, and maybe you won't be able to fall asleep at all. So ideally try not to drink any caffeine like 9 hours before bedtime, because it has like a 4-hour 100% value that you actually feel benefits and the effects of it, but afterwards it's still within your blood and it still kind of does its thing, but you don't really notice it. So try to not drink caffeine 9 hours pre-bed, because that might keep you up and reduce your sleep quality. When you're not as rested, not feeling as well rested in the morning, you're gonna feel more hungry. So you kind of like, instead of trying to fix something, kind of create a wound that just keeps growing and growing and growing. So try to prevent that from happening. Use these tips, but don't go overboard on them. And maybe the weather isn't that great wherever you are staying, like here for example. Maybe it's cold outside, maybe it's raining, then just get on the treadmill and get your steps in that way. If you're already pretty lean and you're really struggling to get rid of that last bit of body fat, and you do not want to reduce your calorie intake, and we're assuming that your intake is also very good, then just get on the treadmill or go outside and start walking more. So that technique, trash. All right. Anyways, here I want to show you and give you a bit of insight into how your body works and how its total daily energy expenditure works, TDEE. And here you have two different scenarios. Both of these hit the gym, but their daily activities are very different. We start with BMR, which is basal metabolic rate. This is basically all the calories that you burn on a daily basis without doing anything. So if you're laying in bed, just watching Netflix, for example, just to keep all the functions of your body going, that will already burn for an inactive person approximately like 70% of your total daily energy intake. And then we have TEF, which is thermic effect of food, which basically means how much energy do I burn digesting food, because food as well costs energy to break down, right? Next up we have NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. All the activities and the calories we burn throughout the day while moving, for example, going to the fridge, picking something out of it, walking around through the city, walking within the office to the coffee machine. And then last we have EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis. So how many calories do you burn on a daily basis while exercising, playing team sports, running, going to the gym, etc. All right, this is one of the reasons why I really look forward to going back to Europe, because even though in Asia, for example, Thailand, where I spent a lot of my time in the last 2 years, and in Bali, there's a lot of nature, but it's really not made for walking. There's no kind of infrastructure for it, and it makes it harder to kind of just stay lean and get lean. Because this one, NEAT, non-exercise activity, basically the easiest and the best one for people who are into weightlifting, walking is not really a thing that you really can do so much over there. Now here, for example, in Europe, you can just stroll through the old towns, get like 5 to 10, 15k steps in pretty easily. Not very demanding on the body. It doesn't really get in the way with the recovery from the gym, the lowered intensity of cardio that you're doing, which is basically NEAT in this case of walking, the better it is going to be for your recovery and keeping that priority on the gym. All right, and here we have, for example, on the other side, a very active person. Now these percentages right here, it could be like 1 or 2% off. It really depends on the person and their body composition as well. But you can easily see that if, for example, you would put in 20k steps from just 10%, right here, it moves to like 30%-ish. So that's like a big ass difference over there eventually. And if you do that long enough on a consistent basis, it really makes a difference. It really starts to add up. So the lower your body weight becomes over time and the lower your calorie intake becomes over time as well, the lower these two are going to be. So these, we can't really change them. The only thing we can do is just either adjust our calorie intake or our body composition, and then these automatically in line with that will adjust, which is also why sometimes, for example, when you would like bulk up, you can get up to like 4,000 calories, whereas when you're cutting, you easily pretty quickly would end up at the 2,000 range already, because you just become a lot more active, which is like people don't really notice, but the longer you're like cutting, the more like kind of monotone you become, and that would fall under the category of NEAT. but thermic effect of food, the more food you eat, the more you would have to kind of eat as well to stay in that surplus. So this basically becomes more, and your basal metabolic rate as well, because you just become heavier, and heavier will also increase. And basically these two mostly will make that difference in between, like how frequently and often do I have to adjust my calories, either going up or going down. All right, so these two we can't really change, but these two, need and eat, we can. Both of these people go to the gym and they both approximately burn the same amount of calories in there, and it's not really the thing to focus on when it comes to calorie expenditure. A lot of people go to the gym to burn calories, but that's the wrong way to go at it. Like, typically speaking, let's say you would do like a set, okay, let's say it even takes like 1 minute. Then you would rest for 2 minutes. So basically in 3 minutes time, for 66% of the time, you basically rested, right? So if you go to the gym for 90 minutes, because you're only doing a set for 1 minute, then resting for 2, then basically within 90 minutes, you only actually trained for 30 minutes. So most people in the gym, they wouldn't really burn more than 150 calories, which doesn't really matter because we go to the gym to build muscle and build strength and keep it. And we burn calories outside of the gym doing cardio. Fat loss happens through a calorie deficit. In the gym, the goal should be to do some damage and build and keep that muscle so you look decently without a shirt on. And outside of the gym, that's where you really should be looking to find ways to really increase that NEAT activity, to make it easier for you to stay in a calorie deficit and get lean, keep muscle without having to reduce your calories too much. Again, I prefer to walk as a NEAT activity because again, it's not very strenuous on your body. It doesn't interfere with your recovery capacity from the weightlifting sessions. So really look for ways to increase your NEAT by walking more. And then lastly, before we move on, I just wanted to show you and give you a bit of insight into the types of cardio you can do and how many calories they would approximately burn depending on your body weight. So both in pounds and kgs. So light, which is what we want to be looking into, right? Because we do not want to take away from our recovery capacity in the gym. You would, for example, burn, if you're 90 kg, 40 calories in 10 minutes. So that would be like maybe 350 calories in an hour, which is quite a significant amount, but this would be light intensity cardio. So let's say a heart rate of like 120, for example, which is more than walking. Walking would probably be for this person like 250-ish, okay? So it's not a lot, but if you do it on a daily basis, then let's say it's 250 times 7 on a weekly basis, that's already quite significant. That's like almost a day of eating that you will add to calorie expenditure. Okay, moderate, vigorous, we don't want to look into those because they ruin or really reduce our recovery capacity from the gym, and it might lead to losing muscle mass, which is what we want to prevent because we want to look good without the shirt on. Another thing you could do to burn some additional calories is to work while standing. If you would stand instead of sitting for 8 hours behind a desk on a daily basis, that would definitely be a difference of 400 to maybe even 800 calories depending on your body composition. It really makes a huge difference. Don't go to the gym to burn calories. You go to the gym to build muscle and build strength and maintain it. Calories are burned outside of the gym. So look around and try to find ways for you to burn some additional calories. We want to make good habits as easy as possible and bad habits as hard as possible, which is why, again, we do not want snacks to be laying around the house. And in addition, don't join the gym, which is like 1 hour away. It's going to be an absolute pain in the ass to get there. Join one that maybe takes like 10, 15, max 20 minutes to get to, and also pick one that has a really nice environment. Maybe it's a bit more on the luxury end. Yes, you'll maybe have to pay a bit more, but you'll be around a better crowd of people. It's going to be less crowded, and having a gym with a very nice vibe is very important and very underrated, because there's going to be times after a long busy day that you're kind of not want to go to the gym. And if you're going to like something in the Netherlands that's called like a basic fit, which is like a very kind of fit for all gym, for all low entry kind of gym that's super crowded and just people hanging out as if they're kind of hanging in the park somewhere. You don't want to go to a gym like that. Have a gym that's not too crowded, very nice, good equipment. It's very going to be worthwhile and you'll get a big return on investment because it's going to be so much easier for you to stick to your plan and enjoy going to the gym. Very underrated one. Sometimes people would ask me, what is the best time for me to train? And if you look at the science, that it's probably around 4 to 6 p.m. That's as well when most of the world records are being broken at, for example, the Olympics. Around 5 p.m. there's like a nice blend between you being fully awake and the body temperature being warmed up, along with not having any mental fatigue and having a certain amount of food in the system. I think that's kind of the reason why that seems to be the theoretically most optimal time to train. But practically speaking, which is more important, you just want to pick a time that is very convenient for you to stick to. Just pick a time in the day where you always know that you'll most likely go to the gym and have a good session. I do notice that people who train later in the evening, relatively speaking, do skip more sessions compared to people who go early in the morning. Because after work, again, you're tired, you're sitting on the couch, and it's going to become an obstacle to get to the gym and bring that energy where you're actually already quite fatigued. So if I had a 9 to 5, I would most likely just get up early in the morning and get it done that way before my day starts. Then you'll always have a good session. You'll be as well very awake at work, whereas everyone else just sitting with their coffee like, oh, I don't want to be here. You'll be ready to rumble and smash the day. You're sharp and you have good input in meetings, etc. And you've already had it done. You'll be consistent, reach your goals, be a better performer, and as well it will improve your sleep quality, and you're not having a super high body temperature because you're finished at the gym at like 9 p.m. and you have to go to bed at like 10:30, which is like you're right here and you have to go to right there in such a short term, and we kind of move more into like a sleeping mode as an airplane instead of like a helicopter that just goes like that. So loads of benefits of going early in the morning, and if you have the flexibility, then theoretically 5 p.m. would be the best, but just choose something that is best and most convenient for you because it doesn't really seem to matter. When you're eating out, you should always prioritize eating protein-rich choices and try to minimize the fats and the carbs. And in addition, I would really try to stay away from desserts and from starters. With desserts, it's very easy to overconsume on calories, and usually only bad things happen from there. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, I messed up, and then just keep indulging, which of course it matters. So stop. If you have overindulged, I would recommend to eat fewer calories that day. And if you know in advance that you are going to overindulge, then I would try to compensate it that day, or worst case even the next. And in such a case as well, try to just literally throughout the day to save out calories, to just only eat basically proteins and vegetables. That's going to be your safest bet. Fats and carbs, you'll easily be able to hit your fat targets in that meal when you're overindulging because of all the oils and sauces that are added into it. And if not, it doesn't really matter for one day as long as it doesn't happen on a consistent basis. And if, for example, Monday to Friday, you just eat at home and make sure you hit all those numbers, then it's not the end of the world that if on the weekend you're not entirely perfectly tracking everything. Just make sure that you're not overindulging and be sensible. And of course, it's always going to be better if you do still track on the weekends. The more accurate your nutrition is going to be, the faster and the better the results are going to be as well. And then the evening comes around. And why is that so important? Well, because the majority of people, including myself, who are on some sort of fat loss mission, tend to fuck up right when the evening comes around. Usually when it's like 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 p.m, right after you've eaten your last meal, you sat down on the couch, you sat down on the sofa, and you realize, I'm hungry. And you get up off the couch, and you walk to the cupboards, and you try to find something that you're not supposed to eat, but then you realize, oh, I'm not allowed to eat anymore. You get back to the sofa, sit down again, you're still hungry, and you get up again, and you walk again to the cupboards to see if something new appeared. This is very troublesome, okay? There are ways that you can work around it. And first thing you can do is you can literally just go to bed earlier, okay? If you just go to bed earlier, and change your routine more to someone of an early bird, you just skip out kind of more on that danger moment. Science as well shows that night owls tend to have worse habits than people who are early birds, and even the life expectancy of an early bird is going to be better. So if you can, try to change your routine a little bit. You could save up the last pre-bed meal to a little bit later. Now ideally, you would want to have 2 hours in between your last meal and bedtime to improve sleep quality. But if you're otherwise going to be indulging anyway and have that extra meal anyway and overconsume, then it's better to maybe just postpone it a little bit and eat that meal right before bedtime so you don't overindulge. Alternatively, I like to save up quite a lot of calories for the end of the day as well, so I have something to look forward to. And in addition, it very nicely complements as well, because during the productive hours of the day, I get to be more productive and eat less, so I get more work done. And by the time that I do feel like consuming and eating and indulging in food, then I do have those calories saved up, which as well prevents me to overindulge eventually at the end of the day. Why spend calories in the day when you have no desire for them, to then later on in the day have none left when you do have a desire for them? But sometimes that still might not work. Sometimes you might just struggle with some crazy sweet or fat craving. And one of the things you could use for that is you could use my own nutrition application, which has more than 100 recipes exactly scaled to your exact requirements, with the ingredients measured in tablespoons, so you don't need to measure it as you would have to with a measurement scale. Automatic grocery list, all that sort of good stuff. And this application has a bunch of recipes that are really going to tackle these sweet cravings, especially pre-bed recipes as well. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then send me a DM on Instagram with the words nutrition app, because I'll have to manually set it up for you. It can't be used without a coach right now to ensure that you get the best results possible. Now, if you don't want to use my app, then I still have a few tricks under my sleeve. And one of the things that you could do, you mix up your sparkling water with a 0-calorie syrup juice, makes it very sweet and will most likely still the craving. And if that doesn't work, then you could basically go brush your teeth. I know it's a bit of a weird one, but it does tend to work really well, because after brushing your teeth, your mouth is going to be full with all this minty freshness. You're not as likely gonna want to eat something afterwards. So maybe you've had a very active day, a lot more active than usual, and maybe you additionally burn another 300, 400, 500 calories on top of what you otherwise would. In that case, then you could decide to allocate yourself some additional calories, but I would decide to just suck it up, stick to it, and you'll be very happy that you did the next morning. Because it's quite easy to justify to yourself why you would deserve some more calories. And maybe now motivation is going to be very high after watching this video, but at some point motivation is going to dim off. And in those moments, you're really going to get tested. And that's the moment where discipline is really going to have to shine through. What are you going to do when you're tired? What are you going to do when you had a rough day? What are you going to do when you are going to have some cravings? Get it done. You're going to have to do some things that most people don't want to get the body and the physique that other people don't have. Everything in life has an equal and opposite force. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment what you thought about it, and if you're interested in using my application, so you have to get rid of all the guesswork and don't have to worry about if you're eating the right things and if your macros are set up correctly. I use recipes that are set up by fat loss experts to make sure there's going to be the easiest journey possible. Then send me a DM and we can hook you up. And otherwise, I wish you the best of luck reaching your summer body with the tips provided in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.